remember on the very first day I came to South Sudan, that day was sort of auspicious because that was the first day when the first parade of unification of the necessary unified forces took place. But the very next day, we had a problem due to militarization of the Nile River, particularly in the upper Nile tract. Now, overnight, virtually overnight, a large number of checkposts belonging to various armed factions had set shop on the Nile River and were resorting to extortion from commercial trade plying on the Nile River, as well as hindering the movement of every stakeholder on the Nile River, which was absolutely unacceptable from a freedom of movement point of view, and also unacceptable from the point of view that Nile River is the backbone of this country, through the lifeline through which we were sustaining our deployment in 3 states which border the river. So the very first week that I was here, we were confronted with moving our traffic on the Nile River with a modicum of force protection through an area infested with thousands of armed factions. So that was baptism when I came in, and I'm glad for that opportunity because that gave me a conflict-driven understanding of the dynamics of the situation. The second challenge, of course, was in the Upper Nile state, wherein 2 communities, the Shiluks and the Neos, who have forever virtually existed in perfect harmony with each other, they broke into a conflict, possibly due to orchestration from various sources. Now, that was a challenge because the conflict was first of its kind. So it had not happened before. Secondly, it happened in an area which was to the west of the River Nile in Upper Nile state, where movement was absolutely impossible except by air. And we had a very small presence in a base called Kodok. And our aim in that conflict was to stay ahead of the curve, protect the largest concentration of civilians rather than getting embroiled in conflict between armed factions, and also ensure that our POC camp, which housed nearly 40,000 IDPs, was safe. UNMISS peacekeepers have built an elaborate system of dikes all around the town to protect the town from flooding. Our first priority has been protecting the internally displaced people here. Second priority has been to keep the airstrip open so that humanitarian aid can flow. The third priority, of course, to protect the Rukona town and the Bentiu town from flooding. And of course, lastly, the priority was also to protect the locations where UNMISS personnel had camped. On 9th of September, of course, an elaborate, very serious crisis took place here, wherein a breach took place of about 22 meters right where we stand, and there was a threat of the entire camp getting flooded. That was averted by 24/7 working by all people here, spearheaded by the Pakistan Military Engineering Company, the task force, as well as the 2 infantry battalions here from Ghana and Mongolia. So protection of civilians not only comes in the hue of protecting them with arms. It also comes in the dimension of such actions. At the end of it all, the township of Pibor was protected, and anybody who took refuge, about 17,200 displaced personnel, they were all protected to the best of our ability. We were also able to create a condition conducive for delivery of humanitarian assistance. Whenever the humanitarians seek force protection for any of their activities, through the riverine route, through land or by air, we have provided it. Protection of civilians was always a priority for this mission. 99% of our actions are oriented towards it anyway. Now, coming to the current mandate, what is good about the current mandate is it makes it very explicit. It says very clearly that the protection of civilians is an overarching priority. It states that the capacities and resources of the mission should be prioritized towards this aspect. It also talks of POC, or the protection of civilians, not from the perspective of only the places where we are deployed and within our capacities as it is normally understood, but it also talks of protection of civilians in a country-wide format, which is difficult to achieve given the fact that despite being a large mission, we are deployed perhaps only in about 1/5 of a country which is of the size of 2 Germanys. But notwithstanding that, it gives the right focus, it gives us a direction in which we should move, that we should be able to respond to crisis anywhere in this country with a view to protect civilians. I think the foremost factor is the fact that this country is heading towards an election sometime at the end of next year or maybe a little later. Now, this has created a different set of parameters which affect the security of the country. Areas which were hitherto free from violence may experience violence when competing parties contest for political representation, and also to achieve a certain domination of the population in various areas from a point of view of their victory in the forthcoming polls. The second aspect is also the fact that the foremost guarantor of peace in South Sudan is the neighboring countries represented by IGAD, of which the chair was Sudan. So with Sudan in turmoil, it will have a huge political, military, as well as a more important economic impact on the situation in South Sudan. The economic impact on South Sudan will have spiraling effect on the political and the military domains as well. These are 75 glorious years. When people evaluate the performance of United Nations in peacekeeping, I think it's important to keep in mind what the various conflicts that the world has seen would have been had UN peacekeeping efforts not been there. If somebody looks at the whole situation with this perspective, we will realize how important UN peacekeeping has been to the world.